or visit us online at brickcity.com.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I don't know exactly why. I'm not one of these guys that dwells on the past, but actually this whole weekend, I was going through some old stuff, and every time you come across an old photograph, you say, oh my gosh, I remember him, or gosh, I remember when they looked like that. Oh my gosh, look how young we were, and all that stuff. And in our cases, we may say, oh my gosh, that was my first wife, that was my first husband. We go through things, but the one thing in common with everybody in those photographs is I had a relationship with every single one of them, or still have a relationship with every single one of them. Even those who I'm not married to anymore, even those who have maybe died, I guess you could say you still have a relationship with somebody who's gone. Dr. Kacie Crisp is so profound in her writing. She's written a book called the book is called The Little Black Book on Relationships, and she is a relationship and a right voice access consciousness coach. We're going to find out what that means. She's also a chiropractor, Robin, and a family therapist, and I think you already do that. Dr. Kacie Crisp, good morning, doctor.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from San Francisco.
Well, that's a great place to be, but you got up early to be with us, 11, 10, 9, 8. It's 8 o'clock.
I did.
Wow. Well, thank you for doing that.
No worries.
So did you study relationships so that you can then apply what you learned? And I'm just curious if it's easier to tell other people what to do than it is to use it yourself.
Right. Well, that's always true, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I always had an awareness of relationships. Even before I started doing this in my 20s, I could predict which relationships with my friends were going to fail and which ones were going to succeed. But one thing I learned in writing my book is I looked at my past relationships before I met my husband more than 30 years ago, and it was pretty much a string of disasters. So, but I see something hopeful in that to people. It's like, well, if you haven't hit a home run yet, there's still a pot for every lid. Keep trying, because in actuality, those mistakes I made set me up to create a relationship with my husband that's great. But it doesn't always work like you think.
When relationships are early in the relationship, and as you just pointed out, there's always going to be bumps in the road. There's always going to be problems. Is there such thing as a problem that is unfixable? What comes to mind is cheating. That comes to mind. Is that ever repairable?
Well, there's about 3 questions in your questions. Are there relationships which are unfixable? Absolutely. It takes 2 to play ball. It takes 2 to create a marriage. It takes 2 to create a divorce. So if the other person is just flat out not willing to change what's going on, yes, that's unfixable. Cheating may or may not be unfixable. It depends on the reaction of the person that's, quote, cheated upon. I can say more about that if you want.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean to bring something such a downer into this topic, but I mean, relationships. Okay, I have a relationship with my son, right? And there's nothing could ever happen to change my love for him. You know what I mean? I can't get divorced from my son. Yeah, and he's 30 now, and he's got his own life, but that's going to be with me forever. So I often wonder, why can't that same attitude be there for husband and wife? Why can't we just say, even if we're not married, we can still love each other? I have a friend that's divorced, 2 friends that are divorced, and they somehow, even though they don't sleep together anymore, but they're still best of friends.
Sure. I mean, you can love someone without being able to live with them.
Yeah.
That's entirely possible, because a marriage it's a business relationship, and it's a living together, and it's like, you might think the person's fabulous, but if you can't stand their socks on the floor, you can't stand their socks on the floor, See,
that would be me. I'll always have the socks on the floor.
But sometimes people are in relationships and you're married and one person supports the other until that person achieves their goal, and then the other person that's been the supporter all these years tries to go out and do something on their own, then the other one gets mad and then leaves and says, I'm going to divorce you.
Right? That can happen. But one of the things that really kills relationships is when people have projections and expectations. Oh, like in the example you gave, the person that was supported all the time expected the other person to support them forever without ever having to support them back. So that was kind of an unrealistic expectation. If we have an expectation of something, it only leads to anger and upset. If we can be open to whatever the person contributes to our life, then everything we get is a gift.
And is that what you mean when you talk about right voice access consciousness?
Well, Right Voice for You is a series of workshops that are part of Access Consciousness, and they're not singing workshops. They're workshops about finding your voice. So, every single one of us has some gift that we came to the world to share, and if we don't share that, if we don't get that out, then the world is forever going to be a lesser place. And I think the world needs all the help it can get. So it's really about finding your voice, what's true for you, and how do you express that in the world to create the greatest thing possible.
Gosh, I love what you just said, and that almost sounds like a separate topic, but I've actually thought what you said and wondered about, like, for example, the arts. I know so many I know so many people in the arts who that's their passion and that's their gift from God, and that's what they want to share with the world, and if they had just taken that accounting course, they could have at least made a living. I know it's crazy. It's almost like the bigger contribution is the art in this one example, but there's no money. It's so hard to justify it. Like if that's your child, and they're going to school to get an arts degree, you say, well, yes, it's good, but I don't know. I love what you're saying, but I wonder, there's a practical element there too, no?
Sure, absolutely. And the thing about Right Voice for You is it's really about living your life. We use the stage as a prop. Okay, you get up on stage, but life isn't a rehearsal. It's not really about the stage. The stage is your life. So whatever issue's stopping you, if it's money in the example you cited, if that person has some limitations about money, then that's what's up in their life. And we can clear those on stage as well. There's lots of tools in Access Consciousness and in Right Voice for You that can totally change people's money flows.
Do you show people how, when they're speaking to their partner, that they should only say so much and then they should know when not to talk?
Well, one tool is we always suggest that people ask in advance, what can this person hear? And only tell them what they sense that person can hear, rather than pouring their heart out. I mean, one of my six don'ts is don't share your feelings, because too often that gets into just being a whole dumping ground for everything bad that happened, and then your poor partner has to listen to it.
And hearing and listening are two different things.
Sure, absolutely.
That sounds like two women talking right there.
he's loving this conversation.
Yeah. So
my point exactly.
is who's the book for? Is the book for somebody with a new relationship, or an old, married couple?
It's for anybody. Someone who's looking for a relationship, can't figure out why they haven't been able to make them work, or someone who has a relationship and they'd like to make it better. Okay. Because what are the infinite possibilities? There's always more.
The book is called The Little Black Book on Relationships. It is written by our guest, Dr. Kacie Crisp. Doctor, did you name it this because of we always associate the Little Black Book with the book that the guy has in his back pocket with all the ladies' names in it, right? I mean,
I know. And it amused me to call it that.
and those are relationships, right? I mean, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Can a person love too much? Can you be like smothering?
Yes, and that's not actually love. That's control, that's manipulation.
Oh.
It doesn't, what would you rather do, love someone or empower that person?
Oh, I guess empower that person, right?
Right.
Because you're supporting.
And empowering them, yes. And empowering recognizes that they're an infinite being, and whatever situation they're in the middle of, they created it, and they're the one that has the capacity to get out of it. Now, you can ask questions that might show them more possibilities that they could choose, but you can't do it for them.
Do you know there was a story about Paul Newman's wife,
Joanne Woodward.
And the story was that she basically was on the road to becoming one of the most successful actresses ever. But when she got married or started a relationship with Paul Newman, she sort of took a back seat and let him be the star. And that's kind of the opposite, I think, of what Robin was trying to say. Instead of smothering somebody, you actually reduce yourself. And what you were saying earlier, Doctor, about using that gift that God gave you to give to the world, whatever that talent is, whatever that gift is. In her case, she kind of held back a little bit, or maybe a lot. In her case, I don't know, but.
And what did the world not receive of the greatness she is and was? I don't know if she's still alive. That we could have received if she hadn't taken a back seat, if she hadn't given up her own voice. What if it wasn't an either-or universe? What if he could have his success and she could have hers, and they multiplied each other instead of subtracting from each other?
And see, what I see in that is this. I see in that, like, in her mind, her intentions were, I love him so much, I'm going to make him, because I know I'm pretty good at this, but I'm going to let him be the good one, okay? And I'm not going to be so good just because I see Robin do this, by the way, all the time. Robin is very talented, and she will step back to try to make me look good. And I think if both people shine, that nobody's going to be. It's not a competition in a relationship, right?
Right.
I'm guessing.
Exactly. Exactly. But so many people do approach it as a competition.
And that could be bad either way.
Again.
Either you're trying to win, or you're trying to let the other one win. Either way, it becomes a problem, I think.
Right. It's instead of a win-win situation, it's a lose-lose situation. Because as soon as you get into competition, you win, but if the other person loses and they feel bad about themselves, does that contribute to the relationship? Nothing valuable.
Now, how do you handle the relationship when you have children involved? Because sometimes women, and I've seen that quite a few times, will use the children as an excuse not to do things.
Well,
like intimacy.
That's their choice.
Things like that.
Yes.
Intimacy.
Yeah.
Yes. Unfortunately, men use relationship to get sex, and women use sex to get relationship. And all too often, they get the relationship, and then they forget about the sex part. But how vibrant, how alive can your relationship be if you've totally eliminated sex? Because sex is the way that we receive in this dimension, and if you refuse receiving in that area, what's that going to do to other parts of your life? It puts a sort of a deadness there.
Every man.
So yes, women do choose that. Yes.
It is funny, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. Every man is cheering when you say that. That's what Robin was laughing at. I don't know if you heard me.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's absolutely true. You know, women, if you give your man sex, you'll have so much of a better life. Just get over yourself.
There you go. We are happy with this book. I like this book. But you know what is actually, here's the thing. Sex is so much easier than romance, isn't it? Romance is hard.
Oh, yes.
You gotta buy flowers.
It's worth it, see? He's got
it. You have a website called, and the website is, I want to share this with the listeners. It is called, what's the one I just went to?
We've got
the Little Black Book on relationships.com.
On relationships, okay. But
and
what was
also
that?
access.
Oh, how did...
Dr. Kacie Crisp. .accessconsciousness.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
But I went to a different one.
accessconsciousness.com.
No. How to stay married and happy.com.
Oh, you know what? That will redirect you to the Little Black Book on relationships.
Oh, okay. That's where I went. But that's a great .com to remember. How to stay married and how to stay married and happy.com. Right?
Right. Unfortunately, people didn't want to do it. And people thought that what I was talking about in relationships didn't apply to them if they weren't already married.
Oh,
so that's where I changed the name of the relationship. That was my first website. You know, we all learn.
What are the signs, though? Because sometimes people are blindsided. They can't see the signs that their relationship is tanking.
Right. True. So, well, one tool you can use is if something feels, they do know. I would say, what do you know that you pretended not to know? Or what do you know that you're denying you know? If there's something going on. See, they do know. Their stomach is in a knot. Their throat gets in a lump. When they walk into the house, they feel smaller and heavier and less, or maybe like a punished 5-year-old. Their body is telling them something about what's going on that they're not paying attention to. So you see, when I walk into my house where I live with my husband, I always feel greater and more expansive. Like when you go for a walk in the woods and the trees don't judge you and you can just be yourself and you don't have to contract yourself because of other people's expectations. You feel that on the beach or in the woods, but I also feel that when I'm with my husband. If they're feeling that, then that's a good sign their relationship's working. If they're not feeling that, if they're feeling heavy, those signs in their body, or they have to give some part of themselves up to walk in their own house, then I'd say, okay, what am I pretending to know here what do I know here that I'm pretending not to know?
Okay, does the book get into the details, specifically things that we can do to make our relationships better?
Yes, I have the 6 do's and the 6 don'ts, which are 6 things that my husband and I do that most people don't do in relationships.
Oh, what are they?
And then there's... Okay.
What do you do? I mean, what's going on?
Okay. So the first thing is to recognize that everything your partner does is just an interesting point of view. They're just expressing themselves. They're not doing anything to you. So how often do breakdowns in relationships happen? Oh, you're doing this to me, you're doing this to me. No one's a victim. They're just being them. Like my husband loves to ride motorcycles. I think motorcycles are terror on wheels. He doesn't expect me to be on a motorcycle, and he's not doing anything to me by riding a motorcycle. He's just being him. So if we can all come from that place, then it eliminates a lot of the blame.
Okay, that's
number one.
That.
Okay. Do you do anything do you have something you do that he doesn't do?
Oh, sure. I can't think of anything right now. But it's kind of like almost everything I say, I think about how is this going to affect the relationship. If what I say isn't going to affect him positively, unless it's a big, big deal, I just don't say anything. Oh, there's a reason I use the example of socks on the floor. It's like he leaves them on the floor and they keep the shape of his foot. It's like they have a life of their own, I could complain about this, or I could just pick them up and put them in the laundry basket. It's like, what's going to create more ease and lightness and fun between us?
Yeah.
Me complaining?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't he ever say, did you take my socks? Doesn't he ever say, where are my socks?
Yeah, maybe he likes to wear them for a week.
I don't know. I don't know what it is about the socks. They have a life of their own.
Well, how do you handle the stress, though? Because sometimes stress will put people in the hospital because of the relationship.
Right. Well, if there's so much stress, again, I'll go back. What do you know that you pretended not to know? And they pretended not to know it, and they pretended not to know it until finally a fuse blew, so to speak. The best predictor of the relationship is working is it fun right now? Some people go, oh, well, it's not that fun right now, but once we're engaged, it'll be better. Once we get married, it'll be better. Once I have a baby, it'll be better. No, the best predictor of how well it's going to work is it working right now? If it's not, what makes you think anything will be different in the future? That's pretty much delusional. Like, oh, I know he drinks a little bit, but I'm sure he loves me, and I'm sure he'll quit when we get married. No, he'll drink as long as he drinks until he wants to quit drinking.
Yeah, But I think if he knew that drinking was something that somehow was a problem for you, that he might say, oh, guys, I'm going to stop drinking. What is with the date thing? Why are men and women so different about dates? I don't mean dating, but I mean like it's your anniversary and oh my gosh, I forgot, or Valentine's Day. And what is with chocolate? What?
Just bring me a box of chocolates on Valentine's Day, and we'll be good.
Yeah.
So we have to remember, and we have to bring chocolate. But I mean, why is that such a big? If I forget it's an anniversary or something like that, and it's the next day, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, did I forget something? Are you mad at me for something? And you say, oh, yesterday was our anniversary, and I go, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, it's too late. I have to remember yesterday. I can't remember today. Right?
Right. So obviously you're with somebody who considers that important. My husband, well, we actually got married on November 1st. So Halloween comes, so he actually always has a reminder when our anniversary is.
All Saints Day or something, right?
Yes, exactly. But other than that, I don't think he would remember. But the thing is, I don't really care. So the two people have to work it out. Obviously, you're with somebody who finds that important. So if she finds it important, can
well,
you
I hope he's
program it
as
into
good to
your
you as
computer?
you. I mean, you're good to him. You give him sex. You don't care about dates. Yeah. I hope he's bringing you chocolates. I hope he's not drinking too much and riding that bike at the same time.
When you first started to write the book and do the Right Voice for Access Consciousness, what was really tugging at your heart because you felt you needed to have this need met?
I would. To need is like a lack of something. I wouldn't say so much I needed something, except that if there's something more, I'd like it. I mean, when I first heard about access consciousness, I got, oh, this is a whole new way of being in the world. Okay, cool, sign me up. I wasn't coming to solve any problems in my life. My life was already great. But if there was more, hey, why not? Sign me up, Do you only want to have one flavor of ice cream in your life? Or if there's 16 more you haven't tasted, are you going to try them out? So it wasn't a need. It was a looking for what else is possible and what else could be greater.
Oh, because you're so good for everybody because of what you're saying and what's in your book. Wonderful.
All right. Obviously, radio interviews only skim the surface. When there's a book with this much detail in it, you need to get the book. So the whole interview, I've been streaming the cover of the book. It's called The Little Black Book on Relationships. And the website I went to is thelittleblackbookonrelationships.com. And it says here there's a 2.5-hour video class as well.
There is?
I'm going to look at that later on. I'll be honest with you, access consciousness is something that's intriguing me, but it hasn't sunk in yet. I don't really quite know what it is. But you've stimulated enough curiosity to make me want to know. Dr. Kacie Crisp, thank you for getting up early out in San Francisco to talk to us. And for everybody else, do we have the book, Robin? No, we don't have the book. So it's called The Little Black Book on Relationships. If you're in a relationship, you need the book. There. How about
For
that?
sure.
Right. Yeah. Or if you like one. Thanks so much. You guys are fun.
Thank you. I wish we had the book so I could ask about some certain chapters. But when did the book come out?
It's out. It came out. I'm not any good on dates, so.
See that? Oh, that's good. That's good.
What chapter in your mind is like the most important that people should grab hold of first?
Well, people like the 6 do's and the 6 don'ts. Each one of those is a separate chapter. And there's so many tools to change their whole relationships in that book. And it's also available on Amazon.com, of course.
And you don't make people feel like failures when we're reading about you and about the book, and that's a very important thing. No, because after even a disastrous relationship, you learn something, and you're more aware, and that's what it's all about, and that will enable you to create a greater relationship in the future. Maybe not the perfect one, but better.
All right.
Be grateful for what you got.
Thank you so much for being on the air with us. We will put the video that we just made up online. It's a podcast more than a video, but you'll see the cover of the book as you're it'll be on YouTube, in other words. Dr. Kacie Crisp, thank you for being on the air with us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, we will take a little break, and we'll be right back. Fun with Joe in about 10 minutes. Plus, we're giving away the prize for the 10 lunches, right? All right, we'll be right back.